Tell us something else we've heard you on and didn't know it was you.
Do you guys know the sitcom Man with a Plan starring Matt LeBlanc?
Yes.
So I did an episode, I got to act opposite Matt as this really annoying toy called Purr Baby, and she was like, "Purr Baby, that's me! Yodelay, 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 yodelay." Really annoying.
Great. Rachel. This is Rachel Butera, ladies and gentlemen.
I'm so excited to be here.
What have you been on lately? What have these people heard you on lately?
I play Natasha in the new Rocky and Bullwinkle on Amazon. Yeah, it's really exciting because that was June Foray, who I grew up on, who I loved so much. So it's like
we had June Foray on this panel years ago, and it was a wonderful experience.
Yeah.
All right. What does Natasha sound like these days?
Oh, darlings, I'm so happy to be here. Where is Boris, that no good Nick?
thanks.
Give us some of the shows. Name some of the shows.
I did Meryl Streep on one episode of Family Guy, but it was like Meryl Streep in Ricky and the Flash. I don't know if you remember that movie. And my only line is, "Stay out of my crapper." I say that to Peter, and that's my Family Guy thing.
And did they give you the required Oscar for that?
I won an Oscar for that, yes, because I'm as good as Meryl Streep.
Okay, give us a couple other shows.
What else do I do? Shimmer and Shine on Nickelodeon. I don't think my thing came out yet, so I don't know. But I play a dragon genie. You know, it's just kind of look to the skies. You know, one of those kinds of things. But I don't think it came out yet. What else am I on? I don't know. Harvey Beaks on Nickelodeon also. I play Techno Bear's mother. She's a very New Jersey mother. Her Guido husbands, if you know that one. Yeah, I don't know. What else do I have?
Keep going.
I'm looking at my IMDb right now because I honestly Enchantimals, if anybody has ever, that's really little kid stuff though. I don't know if you would know that stuff. That's really little. The Loud House, I play Michelle. She's like a casting director, very like, you know, also a very, can you tell I'm typecast? It's very New Jersey, like a very like New Jersey casting director. Get on stage, come on, be with it, do it, you won, you know, that kind of thing. And Paradise PD on Netflix. Are there any Howard Stern fans in the audience? Yeah, I do a voice from the Howard Stern show that you might recognize. His name is Beetlejuice. I don't know if you ever heard of that guy, but that's what I do on Paradise PD. What else? That's it.
Have you got something that's not on IMDb that we hear you on? Some commercial or some looping job or someone you've dubbed?
Oh, well, I do a lot of voice matching. I do celebrity voice matching, so I've done Melissa McCarthy for movies, Glenn Close. I did the voice of Sarah Huckabee Sanders on an episode of Murphy Brown.
Could you lie for us?
Oh, you want me to do it?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Well, I went to the set in New York and I stood there at the podium and I just asked more questions. One more question. Just give me one more question, sir. And I defended myself against Murphy Brown as Sarah Huckabee Sanders, okay?
Thank you, Rachel. Ladies and gentlemen, that's Phil Lamarr. Phil, I got a feeling they know your credits better than you do. But if you could do a few...
What shows hasn't he done?
Do a few characters for us, please.
Well, thank you for not asking for my recent credits. Because all I remember is the old stuff. I'm not afraid to pit myself to the audience. You are the ones who matter to me. Those of you out there who are not afraid to go back to the past. Old-timish
stuff.
I'm just gonna giggle.
His brain sideways!
Actually, I had a new thing come up that they just announced, because it's a video game voice, and usually they don't allow us to say that we've been in them, but just last week they announced my character in the new Mortal Kombat game, Mortal Kombat 11.
I am the voice of Wondercon.
That's gonna be fun.
Fatality.
Actually, I posted something the other day when it I was allowed to say, it's like,
I am Wondercon. Vocality.
which I think is appropriate for this battle.
Tell us some other places. Tell them some of your on-camera things they've seen you in.
I used to be on Mad TV, that show that your parents used to watch. And actually, 2 years ago, I did a show called Get Shorty, and with Ray Romano and Chris O'Dowd, and it just released on Netflix. So now everyone knows that it exists. What else? Anything? I think those are the only things that matter. I did do a very well-received episode of According to Jim in the late 90s. I'm kidding. There's no such thing as a well-received episode.
And on the end, we have Mr. John Bailey, ladies and gentlemen. Same
Pulp
question,
Fiction,
John.
by the way, my favorite. Just
Same
your
question.
dead body in that movie, isn't it? Same question.
I do a voice some may recognize as Optimus Prime.
Show called Combiner Wars. Most recently, though, I'm extra proud of being the voices of Shockwave and Soundwave in the Bumblebee movie, now available on digital and on Blu-ray, DVD, and Ultra 4K. April 2nd, this coming Tuesday. Please buy it many times over. I'm in this ridiculously hilarious and not-for-kids show called Backstreet Girls on Netflix. There's one fan in here that don't need to be around children. I worked on a show called Glitter Force Doki Doki. I do a lot of sound likes. I've done some really crazy voice things. I've been filling in for a very well-known famous actor that wears his brown pants for a movie called Detective Pikachu. But you know, my wife has the same reaction. I don't understand. What is it about this food?
Anybody else you want to go? Anybody else?
Oh yeah, and a little voice of this thing called Honest Trailers.
Thank you.
Does that hurt?
No, actually it doesn't. Everybody asks me, like, does that hurt you? I'm like,
No, it does not. Leave me alone.
Okay, now, while we still wait for our fifth panelist, I'm going to ask each of you to tell me about somebody you worked with in some session. You were really excited. You couldn't believe you were working with this person. You walked into the session, and there, at another microphone, they had Alicyn. Who did you work with that you were really excited?
The first show I ever worked on was the Mr. Men show. And when I walked in, there was right next to me Katie Lee, who was the voice of my childhood. I think that's actually her tagline. Katie Lee, she was one of the gummy bears and My Little Pony, and has done a million things that I grew up with. So that was just an amazing experience to get to work with her.
All right. Rachel, who are you excited to work with?
For me, it was the very first cartoon I did out here in LA. I wasn't even living here. I was still living in New Jersey, and I came out here to do this cartoon. And I walked into the studio for the very first time. It was Patrick Warburton. And
oh wow.
I was so late to the session, and because I couldn't find my way in LA, and like when I finally walked in, it was him. And we were, you know, rarely in animation do you get to work on in an ensemble. It's usually just you alone, and then the next person comes in. But this time, for my very first time, I walked in and it was him, and we were standing there doing the voices back and forth. And he was just so nice, and we're still friends to this day. It was awesome. Yeah.
That's so cool.
Oh,
Next.
we're just going down the line. Okay. Actually, when I was in high school, I got a job on a cartoon. called the Mr. T Show. Which was not good. It was basically like, a Scooby-Doo knockoff. Mr. T was the coach of a gymnastics team that traveled around solving mysteries. None of what I just said made any sense.
It's like the OG Mike Tyson show then.
Oh, no, the Mike Tyson show is a complete rip-off of Mr. T. Which was a complete anyway. But there was one episode where they brought in, because it was a bunch of us who were just kids we were being badly directed, but this one episode they brought in Alan Reed, June Foray, and Paul Winchell. And back then there was no internet, so I didn't recognize them. But then they got on the mic, and it was wild because we were humans. And they were speaking in stereo. And the voices were just not like regular voices. Plus, it was all of these voices that we had been hearing since birth. And all of a sudden, just like, oh, this is the real deal. And it was incredible.
Okay.
Well, mine's a recent story. Like Rachel, I rarely see anybody in the booth. I did see Vanessa Marshall walking out of Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite one time, which was like, yay, Marsh! But we like know each other, so it's like, that's still really cool. But recently when I worked on Bumblebee, I walked in and there's Steve Bloom and Greg Griffin just sitting there with me in the waiting room. And they're like, oh, hi, John. I'm like, and then we, at one at a time, we're going through doing our characters and recording. We all recorded separately, and then when I went in, I'm standing this close to Travis Knight himself. He'd actually personally directed everything, and I didn't know it was him until after my session was over. And he's like, oh, I've been waiting to work with you all day. He's like, say my name is Optimus Prime. I'm like,
My name is Optimus Prime.
he's like, if I could do that, I would just walk around talking like that all day, every day. I was like,
My wife gets very annoyed after 5 minutes.
All right, I want to ask you now.
Any luck on Jim?
What?
Any luck on Jim?
I'm working on Jim right now. I gotta take over for a minute. Phil, I'm deputizing you. Ask each of these people about the voiceover session from hell. Everybody's got one, the terrible session. I need to say, is Brendan, my friend Brendan, in the room anywhere?
Because when we were doing Static Shock and Justice League, all of those Kids WB Saturday morning shows, the Kids WB studio was in the Sherman Oaks Galleria Mall. And also in that mall, there was a Burke Williams spa. And one day I had an afternoon session, and I thought, I'm not doing anything in the morning. I think I'll go get a massage. So I'll be nice and relaxed for my session. Yeah, no. Because when you go to a spa, you're not nice and relaxed and loose like you're ready to go play. You've basically been asleep for an hour. And we were doing a session, a show called Ozzy and Drix. And the character of Ozzy is basically a Chris Rock impression. And that's the very top of your register. Now, when you've just woken up in the morning, your voice sounds like this. It don't sound like this. And it was literal hell because I'm sitting there with the script in front of me going, trying to go, My eyes were stinging from the flop sweat dripping down into, oh God! I'm like, will they have security come and take me out when they fire me? And like, can I just have one more bottle of water? And it took me about 40 minutes to warm up enough to get anywhere close to the lines that I needed to do. And we had to go back and re-record everything I did in the first 40 minutes. So yeah, that's a hell of my own creation. Who's got a photo?
I have two very, very short ones. One, God of War 4, Game of the Year last year, by the way, you're welcome. I'm sure you've all heard Fred Tatasciore story about him almost passing out doing the Hulk one time. It was very similar to that. Again, this was a problem of my own creation. The way I got the job was just faking through some Norse that I had no idea how to pronounce. They actually put it out phonetically, like I'm gonna know how to pronounce the squiggly lines. Like, I don't know what that is. So I'm like, well, man, I can just fake it. And they're like, oh, that sounded great. So I'm like, well, I had no idea what I said, but all right. And I get in there, and ironically, the story from Hell, I was playing a character called the Hell Walker, and I had done a 7-mile hike the day before. And I was like, I was doing this new thing where I'm gonna get fit and trying to do 6-7 miles a day, and I'm like, I'm gonna be fine. And then I got to be electrocuted, and my muscles remembered that I had hiked for 7 miles the day before. And I went, and I face planted right on the floor. And they're like, are you okay? I'm like, yeah, my legs decided to stop working. Like every muscle in my body just like instantly seized. The other one, I was filling in for Adam Sandler for Hotel Transylvania for the Happy Meal commercial. And apparently the studio had flooded and they did not change the carpets. So all of it was completely mildewed and moldy. And I walked in there, I don't get it, guys. I walked in there totally fine. And then I get in there and all of a sudden, Adam Sandler just goes away. I'm like, I was like, I was fine 2 seconds ago. I did the same thing. Just one more water, please. I wrote a little song about it. You want to hear? I went to do the boat and my voice seized up. And then I found that I couldn't speak no more. It was awful. And I was like, and I knew how much those Happy Meal commercials paid. And I'm like, my money's just gone now. I just completely threw this whole job away. It was a nightmare.
Alicyn, did anybody ever mistreat you in a voice session?
Intentionally?
Either way.
I was just thinking back about recording for the Yokai Watch movie, and I did this character named Dame Dead Time, dun, 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 who was probably like one of the most vocally stressful characters I've ever done. My own fault, because when we audition for the roles, we kind of create. But I just remember they're like, okay, it's going to be a 4-hour session. We're going to do Dame Dead Time for like 3 of those hours, and by the end I was just like dun dun dun. It sounded like I just smoked a pack of Parliament menthol lights or something.
You get brought in to do screams from people ever?
I mean, just myself, really, and Halloween, Whoa! But, you kind of can learn to scream well, but it's a bit of a learning curve. I think it's not something you necessarily know right off the bat.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have you done video games where they made you scream for certain deaths?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it'll be like, run off the cliff and die, get shot and die, get hit over the head with a frying pan and die, just keep going.
And you go home sounding like Harvey Keitel. Anyway, yes, okay.
Yeah, my husband prefers it.
I think you sound great, honey.
Rachel, the worst voiceover session you ever had to go through?
Well, I'm lucky to say there has only been one bad one in 8 years, but it was really bad. I don't know if this might be a no-fault thing, but it might be my fault. So I do a lot of celebrity voice matches for films where they need to replace dialogue at the end of it in post-production for an airplane or to take out curses and stuff like that. So I'm usually pretty good at it, but this one time I got hired to be Blake Lively for that movie, A Simple Favor, that just came out last year. And I worked with the producer before, and so he contacted me directly. He's like, take a shot. So I sent him an audition, and it sounded really good, and it sounded like her. But when I got there, it just wasn't working, and we had to replace every single curse, and she curses like a sailor throughout that movie. So it wasn't just a little bit of dialogue that we could get away with. It was an entire hour and a half of a movie, and it wasn't working. It wasn't working. We kept doing it again. They were getting frustrated. I was sweating bullets. And at one point I just turned and I was like, Jim, just fire me now. I can't, I said, I actually know a girl who did her for another movie, and I gave him her phone number. And then he's like, no, some of it's working, some of it's not. And then he said, as a joke, he was just like, all right, let's just finish up these lines before we fire Rachel and replace her with somebody else. And we were laughing about it, but we all knew it was true. So if you are on a plane or if you are watching that movie on TV, you will not be hearing my voice replacing any of the curses in it. Yeah, it was
Hope they at least gave you some free aviation gin.
Yeah. But, 1 in 8 years, that's a good record.
That's pretty good.
Okay, now tell me, each of you, who was your hero when when you were first conscious there was such a job as voiceover work, you must have looked at somebody, some show or some performer and thought, I want to do what that person does. There's people sitting out here right now who are looking at you and thinking, I want to do what that person does. Who was the person who inspired you, who you wanted to grow up to be?
Mel
John?
Blanc, hands down, Mel Blanc.
Mel Blanc.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He did everything. He did everything. Everybody. Every character I loved, it was Mel Blanc, no doubt.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, although, I'm old enough where that wasn't even like a thing. It wasn't like voice acting wasn't a job. It was the thing Mel did. And you weren't, it was like, well, I want to do that. Like, you can't do that.
No.
It's like, oh, I love Superman so much, I want to be Superman. No, you just appreciate the fact that he's there.
I got to direct Mel Blanc one time in my voiceover directing career, and we needed about 6 lines for a Bugs Bunny project, and Mel's agent, who was his son, charged us an awful lot of money. So we went in, we booked 15 minutes on the end of a Heathcliff session. Mel was doing Heathcliff at this recording studio that was built to store manure for the rest of the world. It is a place I never would have asked Mel Blanc to record. And when he finished, everybody left, he stayed, and I took over, and I had 15 minutes to record these 6 lines. He did them again, they were perfect. I looked at the clock, I had 13 minutes. So I figured, I got Mel Blanc for 13 minutes, and given how much money we're paying him, I'm going to get my 13 minutes worth. So I said, okay, Mel, could you do them with a Swedish accent again? Could you do them, he did, and he was very obliging. We started talking about this stuff. And we were in a recording studio that was also a rehearsal hall. And as we're doing these things, and I had him doing Yosemite Sam and Porky Pig and such, as he's doing these things, I hear footsteps behind me. I look over, and there's about 15 late teenage, early 20s people in leotards that look like chorus line. All these kids, sweaty kids in leotards who were rehearsing a music video in there. And they're going, is that Bugs Bunny? Is that Bugs Bunny? And I said, Mel, you've got an audience here, because he was on the other side of the glass. He looked over, saw them, and launched into this 5-minute routine he had where he did all his voices for them. Wow. And they were just mesmerized. It's the same look I see. I'm a member of the Magic Castle, and I see in audiences, when the guy's up there levitating people or sawing people in half, the audience looks like them with this great disbelief, and I saw the same disbelief. Some of you just did that looking at Sergio drawing in the previous panel, too. And he finished this, they all applauded, they went in. Mel had an attaché case with him. He pulled out these little 4x6 colored drawing photos of himself, surrounded by all his characters, and he went to each kid, let each kid come up, and he would ask them what their name was, and he would repeat it as Porky Pig, stammering on their name, and then he would sign a picture to them. And they all walked out like they had the Holy Grail. They had this wonderful experience. And then I walked him out to his car, and Mel was walking with a cane, because as most of you know, he had an accident in the early 60s that he broke just about every bone he had in his body. They recorded the Flintstones at his hospital bed for a while. And he did Barney Rubble in pieces, and
Too soon.
Okay.
Jeez, Mark.
Anyway, so he lived, and he came back and made a full recovery. That's a wonderful story. Anyway, and I stood out there in the parking lot with him for an hour. It was like 108 degrees in Hollywood. And I kept saying, well, thanks, it's been a pleasure talking. And we started talking about, because he understood that I knew the history of his career, and I really knew everything he'd ever done, and every voice, and every cartoon, and things like that. And we talked about the business, one of those I wish I had a tape recorder moments. Right. And finally I said to him, Mr. Blanc, he said, Mel. Okay, Mel, he said that 6 times before I could tell him, Mel. He said, I really, I'd love to talk to you forever, but it's 108 degrees, and I'm keeping you standing here in this parking lot. He said, he grabbed me by the wrist and he said, you don't understand. It means so much to me that the kids today know what I did. And I kind of moistened up in the eyes. Yeah, he was an amazing man. And he basically invented the business. there were other people who did it, June Foray, obviously, and Dawes Butler and Paul Frees and Don Messick, and all those people who perfected voice acting and made it a career that it is today. But, yeah. Anybody else have someone that inspired them at all? Is there somebody else who inspired you?
I have a few influences. Jonathan Winters, Rich Little, but mainly Peter Cullen. I first heard him back before we were drawn to TVs like, you know, Bugs to the Bug Light. I was just playing the floor and Voltron just happened to come on and I heard Voltron, Defender of the Universe, and I was like, I want to be that. I didn't know it was a person. I just wanted to be that, whatever that was. I wanted to be that one day. And to be perfectly honest, pretty much everybody up here, like, I looked up to you guys. I was out there too, and now I'm up here. So you just
Never give up on your dreams.
That's good. Okay. Anybody else?
I remember when I first moved to LA, I was watching fireworks and I saw Tara Strong. And this was before Instagram, guys. So not everybody knew Tara. I mean, of course everybody knew Tara, but I was like, hey, wow, it's so nice to meet you. And I think she was a little surprised, like, can you please get your arm off my arm? Kind of geeked out.
As you've maybe figured out, I've been stalling, hoping Jim Meskimen would get here. I think we have to start the reading now.
Yeah.
Fortunately, we have auxiliary voice actors in the house. Wally Wingert, would you come down and bring your friend with us? Explain what's in the bag later, all right?
Yes.
Wally, welcome to us. This is Wally Wingert. I'm going to start passing out scripts here. Wally, while I'm getting my page together, I would like you to do for me, just for me, my favorite thing you've ever done in the business, the voice thing you've ever done that you did for years on NBC every Monday through Friday night.
Oh, yeah.
Could you just give me one little bit of that?
It's The Tonight Show with Jay Leno. Tonight, Jay welcomes Alicyn, Packard, Butera, Phil Lamarr, and the rest. And now, Mark Butera.
All right, we're going to do in 20 minutes the story Rapunzel. Alicyn, here's your script, and congratulations, you're Rapunzel.
Okay.
All right, Jim, you're the narrator. I'm going to explain in a minute what you do specially and usually here. So take that.
All right.
That. And I'll explain what's going on. You can start marking your scripts. Let me recast it. You are playing peasant number 1, the valet, the king, and Henry. 4 roles.
There you go.
All right?
crossed out.
John, you are playing the prince, peasant number 2, and the servant. Okay? Wally, you'll need this later. Okay? Now, let me tell you all that you can change voices anytime you want. You can change lines anytime you want. But we're going to get a special assignment here to Mr. Meskimen. Jim Meskimen is the best impressionist I have heard in years. And to prove this, I'm going to call out the names of celebrities, and he's going to do each narrator line in a different celebrity.
All right.
Mark, who was that again? One more time.
What were John's characters again?
Prince
John, here, John's card here.
Oh yeah, I didn't get a card.
Sorry? All right.
Thank you.
And we've got a little press for time here, folks. So you're going to, if you have 2 ways to read the line, read it the faster of the 2. All right?
Faster, louder.
Okay. We're going to give you not enough time to mark your scripts. Change your voices whatever you like. And we're going to start here. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. Jim?
Yes, sir.
Would the narrator of the first narrator please be Morgan Freeman?
Once upon a time, there was a house with the most beautiful garden anyone had ever seen. Peasants would gather around to admire it, and especially to ask about one special plant.
Yo, what is that beautiful flower that grow up within that garden over there?
It's called a rampion, my friend, and it grows nowhere else for thousands of miles around.
I gotta give me some of that. It looks like you can smoke it.
Oh, you don't want to go in there, sweet rabbit. That's the garden of Dame Gothel. She's a wicked witch. She'll cast a spell on anyone who dares touch her rampion.
Go away! I know what you want, but you can't have it! Keep your hands off my rampion!
Next line will be narrated by Tommy Lee Jones.
Everyone stayed far away from her garden. Everyone except a woman who lived nearby with her husband.
Henry, each day when I look out at that garden, I have an overwhelming desire for a salad I made from that plant.
But woman, that's an evil witch! And after all, shouldn't we be focusing on having a child we wanted for so long?
I know that if I do not eat rampion, I will surely die.
Very well, woman. If you want it, you're gonna have it.
William Shatner.
So, Henry climbed the wall into Dame Gothel's closet and began picking rampion. That was when the witch appeared.
How dare you come into my garden and steal my rampion? I will turn you into a disgusting creature, the lowest form of life.
No, please, forgive me. My wife craves rampion so badly, she will die if she doesn't have some to eat.
If you're telling me the truth, I will let you take as much rampion as you want in one condition. You must give me the child which your wife will bring into the world. I shall care for it like its natural mother.
I can't do that.
Then prepare to become a warthog! You're worse!
Wait, what exactly is worse than being a warthog? I beg of you not to do that, I promise. Okay. The child will be yours.
Okay, here's a hard one. George Clooney.
Oh, jeez.
The deal was made, and the wife got a rampion. Months later, the couple finally did have a beautiful child.
Henry, my dear husband, I want you to meet your daughter.
Oh, she's so lovely, but maybe we shouldn't get so attached. What should we name her?
Since she's mine, I shall name her, and I shall call her Rapunzel.
Robert De Niro.
And with that, the witch took the child and departed.
Christopher Walken.
In the years that followed, Rapunzel grew into a beautiful young woman. She, all day, she would sing as she brushed her long, golden hair.
I don't want no scrub. Scrub is the guy that can't get no loving from me. Working on the passenger side.
Antonio Banderas. Antonio Banderas.
She was so beautiful. That then Gothel feared she would lose her.
Servants! Where are my servants?
Oh, bother. Did you call for us, madam?
I want you and other servants to build a tower 20 feet high in the middle of the forest.
Oh, but how many doors would you like it to have? One, two, three. And please don't make me read 50 Shades again.
No doors, but one small window into a room at the top. There, I shall keep my child forever!
Sir Ian McKellen. Ian McKellen.
Sorry, I couldn't hear. And so, the tower was built and Rapunzel was placed inside. When Dame Gothel wished to visit her, the witch would station herself beneath it and call out,
Rapunzel, let your hair down so I may climb up the golden stair.
Like, oh my god, mother! Let me pass in my braided tresses so that you may come at my hair. Here they come! Thank you, Mother. But I've been thinking I'd like to meet some other girls, you know? Perhaps even a boy.
Silence! I forbid it! But you will not be lonely. I shall visit you at least once a week. As you wish, Mother.
Richard Burton.
And so it was for months and years. Until one day the king's son was walking in the forest with his valet, and he heard a charming sound.
Don't go chasing waterfalls. Stick to the rivers and the lakes that you're used to. I know that you wanna have it your way. Interrupt me now. I think you're moving too fast.
What a beautiful song! Valet of mine, who is singing so lovely?
I know not, my prince, but it would seem to be emanating from that tower over there.
So it is! I must see the face of the one who possesses such a wonderful voice. How do I gain entrance, etc.?
I don't know. There appear to be no doors into this tower and no stairs.
George W. Bush.
They searched in vain. But finally he was forced to return to the castle unfulfilled. For days he was haunted by the memory of the voice, even when dining with his father, the king.
My son, you are not paying attention.
I am sorry, your father. I don't know why he says your father. It's just that I keep hearing... There it is again, that voice. What is that, somebody ringtone? What is that?
What voice? I do not hear a voice.
No, I don't suppose you could, because you're deaf and old and stuff, but I must go to it and be as near to it as I can be, so farewell, or whatever.
Your Highness, where the prince going? I can only guess, my faithful valet. I am sure you recognize that look that he has upon his face.
Indeed I do, Your Highness. It is the same look you had when first you met the woman who would be his mother.
Yes, that look got me into no end of trouble.
John Malkovich.
That day and for all that followed, the prince lingered near the tower, listening and dreaming.
Hanging tough. Hanging tough. Are you tough enough?
Colin Firth.
Colin Firth was both comforting and agonizing until one day, when he saw an old woman approach, he hid behind a tree and watched.
Rapunzel, let down your hair so I may climb the golden stair.
Here it comes, Mother.
Bill Clinton.
He watched the woman climb up into the tower. Remained there for a few minutes and leave. Once she was gone, he knew what he had to do.
Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your hair, also and leave me so now, so that I may climb the golden stair.
Who are you?
I am a man who loves you, and I will find you.
I shall let my hair down.
Woody Allen.
Immediately, the hair descended. And the king's son also descended. It's two descendants, if you can.
Are you truly a prince?
I may not be a prince, but I have a very particular set of skills. Will you come live with me in my kingdom, Rapunzel?
Yes, of course I will.
Then it is settled. Just let down your hair, and we shall be off.
But I cannot climb down my own hair.
I didn't think of that. Now I'm running around thinking, let me climb down your hair and go get help.
Joe Pesci.
He slid down her locks. And when he reached the ground, the witch was waiting for him. She was waiting a long time.
You have to come down. You have to come take Rapunzel. Now you will never see her again.
Oh, my eyes, I saw what you looked like in your face. Oh, jeez. She's cast a spell so that I cannot see. Thankfully, she was very ugly.
Groucho Marx.
For years, we would wander in the woods, eating only plants and berries. Meanwhile, in the tower,
You wicked child. I thought I separated you from the world, but you weren't ready to leave me. For that, I will cut off your beautiful hair.
No, please, no.
There. Now no man will ever want you. And as further punishment, I will take you from this tower.
Tom Brokaw.
Let's took her to a desert where she lived, wandering in great misery. One day, a stranger, lacking in sight, stumbled upon her.
Who are you to be stumbling into me like that?
Forgive me, whoever you are, for I am blind, therefore I cannot see, because my eyes won't allow me to do that.
There is nothing to see, just a woman with a broken heart.
That voice. I know that voice. It's the documentary made by John DiMaggio. Please, sing for me.
I do not sing since my heart was broken. I still dream of one true love and... Oh my goodness! That is you! That is you! I don't want no scrub. Scrub is the guy that can't get no loving from me.
Casey Kasem.
the two embraced, and her tears of joy dimmed his eyes. When they did, something magical happened.
My eyes! I can see again. I can see you, and you are even more beautiful than I remembered. Way, way better than your voice. Will you now come with me to my kingdom?
Droopy Dog.
Off they sped to his kingdom, where the prince heard the sad news.
In your absence, sire, your father, the king, has passed. Now that you have returned, the throne is yours. Oh, providing you are married.
I am. All right, I get married better than everyone. All right, believe me. And that is, I will be, if my beloved Rapunzel will be my bride, the best. Everyone knows that she's the best bride.
Yes, of course.
Walter Cronkite.
Thought I was done. Just grab this for a second.
Oh no, sorry. And so, the two were wed.
We have a part here for a priest, and I think it calls for someone very special and very special. We have a special guest star. Wally, would you introduce our special guest star today?
How y'all doing? Yeah, good to see you. All right, yeah, Rolf the dog here playing the part of the priest today. All right, so let's see here. We gather here this day to join these two people in sacred matrimony.
Agonizing moan.
Pay no attention to the agonized moans of a defeated bitch. Which I have female dogs on the brain, I'm sorry. Let's see, where was I? Oh yes. Do you, noble prince, take this woman as your love for all eternity? And do you, fair Rapunzel, take this man as your love for all eternity? Oh, sorry.
Yes, I did.
Nicely done. Have you ever thought about going into this business professionally? You know, well, now that you're married, I have a little song. You can't live with them, you can't live without them. There's something irresistible-ish about them. All right, last line. Then may you, as we all, live happily ever after. Yeah.
Thank you, distinguished cast. Jim, thank you for getting here, for making it. You're a trooper given the traffic that are on there. Quickly tell them some of the shows you've been on lately, some of the shows you've heard on lately.
Well, yeah, this one, Puss in Boots on Netflix. The Storybots, Ask the Storybots, also on Netflix, and the reboot of Thundercats coming up in May.
If you come to the Cartoon Voices panel in San Diego this year, Jim, will you come on, we can talk to you more on that panel?
If my schedule allows, yes.
Thank you very much. Folks, thanks to all these people. Thank Alicyn, Packard, Jim Meskimen, John Bailey, and Wally.